continuing from last week, still talking about the same pieces, and to summarize what Rav Kooks said, he said is that there are these great treasuries that we have, and that every word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that comes into the world, it's more in Shabbos, incenses the world, sweetens the world. However, there are things that have to be hidden within the neshama, right, that should not be brought out. And it seems, to people of our culture at least,
those things that should be hidden need to be brought out.
No. I'm saying of the religious culture that these are obvious things, right? Why do we have to talk about things that are rotten and negative and bad? But we often think here in today's world, this is censorship. How can we, tell the artist that he has to erase a little bit or fudge it, right? He should be, right? Why should he only deal with good things? He should also deal with bad things, right? Isn't bad, I'm not going to say evil, but bad, part of man, right? And shouldn't a artist expose every side of mankind, the elevated ones as well as the lower ones? He should not hide anything. These ideas come from a basic misunderstanding in what the value of mankind is and what man's job in the world is. The artist is to take his great abilities, God-given abilities, right? But what is man? Is man a body? You will hear people say this. Man is no different than any other living creature in the world.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. They didn't learn the Rambam.
No, I'm saying in today's world, you hear people say things like this all the time.
Well, the other side of it, animals are people too.
Right.
Animals are people too.
So are corporations and all sorts of things, right? We are physical, just like all other animals are physical, right? There is nothing, they will say, that is unique to mankind. Too many men and people in the world and not enough tigers, right? Or whatever it is, right? I listen, I'm not saying in any way that we shouldn't have nature and these animals, but there is an intrinsic difference between them and man. As it says in Bereshis, Perek Beis, Pasuk Zion.
They're living up to their potential.
Shir HaShirim Elokim es Adam.
You see, this is just an FYI. The way you have it printed is semi-classic. The truth is, if you look at the Koran, okay, when you pronounce it by Yitzhar, okay, the problem is that that's. I couldn't say why you do it, but it's by Yitzhar. What happens is that this word in Bamidbar Perek Al Pasuk Ches, the first word, is it shatu or shatu. And what happens is in certain Chumashim will have one klisha ktana on top of the vav. In the Koran will have one on top of the shin and top of the vav. And Mincha Shai writes down that no, it's one thing if you have a Masorah, but any dummy who knows it doesn't say those words. It says it's by Yitzhar and by Yiven in Perek Beis Bereshis. And even though there might be one, and probably around Solar probably has only one, unlike what you have here, but everyone knows that you pronounce it by Yitzhar. But just as parenthetically.
So God created, Hashem Elohim created man, afar min ha'adama, dirt from the ground, v'yipach be'afav nishmas chayim, and he breathed into his nose the neshama of life, v'hi adam lenefesh chaya, and then man was a nefesh chaya. So there's something different in the creation of man and the creation of all the animals, and we reflect this early in the morning, right? Elokai, my God, neshama shnasata bi, the neshama that you gave me, taharahi, it is pure, right? The neshama is the part of us that separates mankind from all of the rest of creation, right? And it is the job of the artist to bring out that which is in the neshama, right? And the neshama by nature is tahor. The goof is not necessarily tahor. It can be or it cannot be. But we are very capable, right? Mankind is very capable of grabbing the, let's say, the nefesh habahamis, as Chabad would say, right? The animal soul, and working very hard to bring everything in the animal soul out, right? But we should not grab which is negative, right? The rotten inclinations, which people have plenty of without stoking them up.
Really?
Yes, really. I mean, you look at the world.
We're never fine. Such a thing.
But you can see here when you look at the nefesh Adam, the pure nefesh of Adam, you can see faith, right? And let us say the natural culture of the neshama as opposed to the culture of the goof, right? And therefore, the artist is supposed to reflect the neshama that is within us, the pure neshama that is within us, right? And not the animal and the lower instincts that are often so prevalent in mankind. We understand that man does have free choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he can choose to involve himself with things that separate him from the nature of his neshama and move him more to those things, let us call them the impure things of the goof, right? And people have been known to act, as we say in Yiddish, like a wilde chaya, a wild animal, right? But this is not constructive, and it doesn't improve the world really either physically or spiritually in the end. Even when a person chooses to involve themselves more with the animal parts of the human body and not the neshama, there is still hidden within it the neshama. That is to say, just like the artist should make sure to bury, right, those negative things. When someone makes the decision to go in the other way, right, it doesn't mean that the pure aspects of the neshama aren't there.
They're just
right?
covered up.
They're just completely covered up. Just like the artist ideally should cover up those negative aspects in what he's doing, right? So too, someone can do the reverse, right? So therefore, it is our challenge, right, of Avodas Hashem, is to reveal the human part, that which is uniquely human, i.e. the neshama, right? The spiritual level, right? And to draw this into us. And not concentrate on the other aspects of a human being. And the ideal job of the artist, right, is to help the neshama express itself, right? Express its humanity. You can have a whole shir here, by the way, on the Borg.
On the what?
The Star Trek.
Oh.
Yeah. They're.
Clones.
No, they're not exactly clones. They're whatever.
Yes.
But you could have a whole shir that the Borg are bringing out the animalistic aspects of the human being without care for the creative nature of what is special and unique about humanity.
So I'd probably wouldn't need to go too far out on a limb to assume that Rav Kooks would be opposed to bar mitzvahs and performance art in Times Square when there's two naked people groping each other.
I would assume that's...
I wouldn't need to go too far out on a limb to say that those are
No.
not acceptable by him.
No, along with much else that is very popular today. Section 4 on this. Lipagesh mira or lehitrechek mimena. Opposed to what we've said, there are people that say, no, we have to make people exposed to bad things. It's good to expose people to the negative so they can see how disgusting and physical this life is. And through that, they will choose to reject it, right?
I could then say, on the other hand, Sumi Ravaseto.
We're going to get there.
Is it?
We're going to get there.
What about it?
You're jumping.
I'm not.
No, it's fine.
And this is a hypothetical question that we're going to now tear apart.
We can see, at first glance, let us say, that there is something to this claim. But, in fact, there are problems with it. It's not, in fact, true. Who is going to guarantee that when people encounter evil, right, that they won't go, hey,
This is not a bad idea.
this is fun, this is good, I like this.
I like ice cream.
And, well, I would go,
A whole country
listen.
decided to follow Nazi Germany.
that's right, or many other such things that are, corrupting of the neshama, and certainly be metame the goof. But people, when exposed to these things, especially at a young age, right, they don't reject them, right? They tend to adopt them. This is one of the great challenges that people discuss about and do studies a lot about violent pornography that teenagers are seeing all the time. It makes showing violence against women in pornographic ways, and teenage boys see it all the time, and it becomes something that they think is normal. And there is a huge amount on this. And most experts say that you should not, it's certainly not good. I mean, it's extremely bad, but a lot of their solution is not allowing tweens and young teenagers to have smartphones, but we see how well that works. unfortunately, we see that this is so true, that people are taught to not value the basic things that are important to the spiritual growth of the neshama. And even within groups that you would think that what they're trying to do is to develop Kedusha. They cling to these ideas of it's good to expose to this evil, and they become very negative in many ways. The Midrash Tanchuma, by the way, there are two Midrashei Tanchuma. One is known as the Dבור, because he found a Ksav Yad, and it's different than the other Midrash Tanchuma. This is not from the Midrash Tanchuma of Dבור. Tahave Chassid. There was once this Chassid. V'have le'aba v'shasei chamra tuva. And he had a father who would drink a lot of wine. B'chol idan tahave nafil b'shuka. And when he was coming home from the bar, he would fall in the marketplace. Asu ume, young people would come. Makin ye ba'avanim v'tzrorin. They'd beat him with stones and pebbles. V'tziveach. They'd cry v'korin. But tarve chaze shikra. They'd call around. Look at this drunk guy, right? Couldn't walk all the way home. V'kishrabu no achasid. When his son the chassid saw this, hu machlim. He was embarrassed. V'sholas nafsha lamus. He wanted to die. Right? Seeing your father drunk in the curb, passed out, not good. And every day said to him, Abba, listen, I'll bring you all the wine that there is in the country to drink at home. Don't go to the bar to drink. You make it an embarrassment for you and for me. For me and for you.
It's interesting that it puts many before them.
Yeah. Well, because the father isn't so concerned about his own covet, obviously.
Still, with the son.
Yeah, all right. Maybe that's why he wasn't so effective. Lo ken pam achas v'shtayim b'chol yom. He'd say it once, twice a day. Ad shamar aviv shiase kamo shehu omer. And so finally his father agreed. Yeah, okay, you can bring me the wine. I won't go to the bar anymore. Well, he's not saying he's not going to drink. He's not going to get drunk. He's just going to get drunk at home. Be a good couch potato. Every day and every night he'd go, he'd eat and drink and sleep in his bed instead of in the curbs. And then the sun would go. One time, it was raining. V'yatza chassid l'shuk, the chassid goes out. V'haya holech l'beis knesset, he's going to shul daven, l'tfila. V'ra shikur echad, and he saw a drunk guy, shu shochev b'shuk. He's lying in the marketplace. V'amas mayim yored alav, the water, the drain, right, is pouring onto him. He's not even moving out of it because he's so drunk. V'abachorim v'anarim, makinoso ba'avanim b'tzrorim, and the young men and the teenagers are beating him with stones. Mashlichim chomer b'fanav b'toch piv. They're throwing mud in his face and into his mouth. Kishrazi chassid amar beliba. When the chassid saw this, he said in his heart, Elech la'abba. I'm going to go to Abba. Fa'aviyendo lekan. I'll bring him here. V'rei lo zeh, and I'll show him this drunk guy. V'cherpa she'osim mimenu abachurim ve'anarim. And I'll show him how embarrassing it is what the young guys are doing to him. Maybe he'll realize it's not such a good idea to get drunk. So that he did. He brought his father and he showed him. Ma asa avi v'zaken. What does his father do?
I miss
Halach
those days.
halach al etzel shikur. He goes to the drunk guy. V'shal lo be'eze beis yain. Shasa oso yain. Shem shtaker bo. Where is this place that has such great wine?
Must have some good stuff.
Yeah, where are you getting this good stuff from? Amar Noah Chassid. His son said, Abba, b'shvil zeh karaticha. This is what I called you for? Ela shetirei chorpa she'osim lezeh. So you can see the disgusting things that they're doing with this. Ki ken osim lecha be'eshet she'oseh. This is what they do to you. Ulai shetimna picha milishtos b'eis yain. Maybe you'll stop drinking. The bar.
He needs an Al-Anon meeting.
Amar lo b'ni. This is my son. B'chayai, by my life. Ein li tanug v'gan eden elazeh. This is my Gan Eden. Being drunk so much that I'm not even aware when they're doing this to me. That's the good stuff. K'shamach hasid halach lo b'pachi nefesh. When the chassid heard it, he walked away with upset soul. You know, yeah. Theoretically, and this is only
Doesn't
theoretically,
need an Al-Anon meeting.
yeah. They- and family of for the, yeah. Theoretically, it seems logical that a person should see evil and he would push it aside with both hands.
Yeah,
But in reality,
theory.
we often see,
Exactly the opposite.
right, it often drags the person and gives him, let us say, new ideas that before this he didn't realize and recognize. When we understand the nature of humanity, right, we can see why it's prohibited for us to publicize negative things, to give especially young people contact with negative things, right? It gives them a possibility of becoming involved in them.
I remember this whole story came to mind. Rabbi and Dr. Alan Forsky. He deals with alcoholics.
Yeah.
So I don't think he probably would have gone and say, let me just show you how this guy looks. It's not going to be effective.
No. The Midrash knew it wasn't going to be effective. It's painting an idea.
Exactly.
And this is the guidance that David HaMelech gave us in Tehillim. Mia ish hachofetz chaim ohev yamim liros tov. Who's the man that desires life, right? Loves his days. He wants to see good. Sur meira ve'aseh tov. He turns away from bad and he does good. Right? We have to turn away from it. We have to hide it. We have to get rid of it. Elie Wiesel in his memoirs once talked about, he was giving a lecture, a university professor giving a lecture in university, and he was talking about the capos and the camps. And a girl came up to him afterwards, and she was very upset. She says, wasn't there anything good? And he was like, no. And she was crying. Her father was a capo and survived that way. And it just, there were some people that in the Holocaust, when faced with the ultimate evil, were able to reject it and overcome it, and others decided to cooperate with it, right? And no one knows, I am 100%, no one knows why some people went one way and some people went another way.
I go one further. you don't really know what you will do until you're in that position.
Yeah. Al tadina sovercha ad tagia limkomo. You cannot judge your fellow being until you've arrived at his place. Meaning you have to go through all the things that he went through before you can say, I would do this, I wouldn't do that. There's a story that I do not believe is true. Although I think it's based in truth. And, Rashi lived through the First Crusades. And there were a lot of Jews that survived by accepting Christianity. And many of them tried to return later, but the Jewish community in general was not so welcoming. And the story goes that Rashi sees someone in the shuk in Troyes that no one will sell him anything. And he goes over to him and invites him to his house. And the guy says, before you bring me into your house, you should know that, during the Crusades, I was forced to become a Christian. And that's why no one will sell me anything. And he says, no, fine. And up to this point, I believe the story could be true. From this point on, I do not believe the story is true. That when they spend the day together, and when they go to shul for mincha, no one will come in the shul because Rashi and this one of the agenosim is there. And so Rashi says it seems that they need to be closer to God than we do. So he goes home with the guy and he doesn't come to shul for several days. Finally, the parnes of the Kila comes to Rashi and says, the people are very upset with you. He says, tell them that I will meet them in front of the shul before mincha today. And he describes the tortures that this person went through and that they put him through to force him to become a Christian. And he says, who knows what they would do. And the story is that the parnes of the Kehila says, I wouldn't have. And Rashi goes, I believe you wouldn't have, but I do not know what I would have done. Let's go down. Anyway, that's the story. As I said, I don't believe this whole story is true, although we know that Rashi did accept into his yeshiva people that had been forced to accept Christianity, afal pi shechata Yisraelhu, and so on. But unfortunately, Jewish people have gone through too many episodes like this. And we see, unfortunately, when people are confronted with absolute evil, some people are able to withstand it, and some people are able not to. It's better not to have to face the challenge.